With only 42 days until the election, GOP senators are using the fight to replace Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg to amp up the base in battleground states. And Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell argues there is more than enough time to confirm President Trump's forthcoming nominee before the end of the year.
In his Bad News newsletter Substack entitled Where the Supreme Court Crisis Goes Next, Pressure Points and Possibilities, Ryan Grim argues Dems really have nothing to lose here, and it may just be their make my day moment. Friend and DC Bureau Chief of The Intercept, Ryan Grim, joins us now to tell us what all of that means. Great to see you, Ryan. So talk to us about the divisions in the Democratic Party, what tools they have at their disposal, and what they're likely to do with this situation.
The key tool that they have in the Senate is occupying the Senate floor and denying unanimous consent. Demanding that bills be read. If we were closer to November 3rd, then you might have a more plausible case that Chuck Schumer would feel comfortable in going for something like that. But because you have so many weeks between now and November 3rd, and so many weeks between November 3rd and when the next Congress is sworn in, which is early January, you have to eat up an awful lot of floor time, which becomes almost impossible if Mitch McConnell has the 50 votes plus the vice president that he needs to seize back control of the floor and move forward. And you've seen McConnell move extremely quickly over the last few days, as he does, to show that he actually does, it appears, have the 50 votes. Once Cory Gardner from Colorado effectively said that he's willing to throw his reelection race away in order to vote for this Supreme Court nominee, and Joni Ernst, who isn't necessarily throwing her race away, but also said that she's willing to evaluate the nominee on its merits, which means that she's willing to vote. And if she's willing to vote, it pretty much means that she's going to vote with McConnell. And the numbers there, even without Mitt Romney, get you to 50 Republicans.
Right, Ryan. So what do we make of the politics of this situation? Because I guess the counter argument would be, look, if it's going to pass anyway, then just let it pass. Why, throw everything into haywire here? Crystal and I have basically said the politics here help people who are vulnerable Republicans in more red states and probably hurt Republicans in more blue states. What is the analysis generally within the Democratic Party on the political ramifications of all of this?
It depends on who is seen as being more fired up to vote based on this issue. And interestingly, so far, it looks like that's Democrats. And the first piece of evidence you have for that is the $100 million that Democratic donors gave to candidates around the country in the first roughly 32 or 33 hours after Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death was announced. Now, normally around that time, they would have raised about $22 million. So you're looking at a good $80 million, which is an absolutely extraordinary amount of money. Democrats in a lot of these close Senate races were already outspending their rivals in the home stretch. Now they can put that much more money up on television, which isn't as effective as it perhaps once was. But if it can move the needle a point or two, then you're going to bring into play races that people didn't even think were going to be close before. So this likely means that Gary Peters in Michigan holds on fairly easily. It puts Susan Collins in a very difficult spot, especially with ranked choice voting in Maine. Cory Gardner in Colorado is in huge trouble. Mark Kelly is already up by double digits in Arizona. But then you also have races in Montana and Alaska and Georgia, which, like you said, could cut a number of different ways. You could see, in 2018, like as you're talking about, as Kavanaugh and the caravan became the big issues in the final weeks of the campaign, that very much benefited Democrats in suburban races. That's part of the reason that they took the House and that you saw this this evolution and this realignment continue to push forward. But it hurt people like Claire McCaskill in Missouri. So then the question becomes, is Georgia going to be decided by suburban voters or the kind of white working class voters that shifted towards Trump in 2018 because of Kavanaugh and the caravan, and what about Alaska, which has its own unique political issues going on? It's devastated. Its economy is devastated because the coronavirus has basically canceled the tourism industry. People are not really eager to get on cruise ships at the moment, and so anger about that situation, combined with the effects of climate change that are quite visible in Alaska, could make the Democratic candidate Gross, who is kind of a dream recruit. He's both a surgeon and a commercial fisherman. He's kind of ridiculously good recruit by Chuck Schumer. You could with enough money, you can go up on the air in Alaska. You can use mail, and you can reach out to every individual voter to make sure that they're turning in their mail ballot, turning in their absentee ballot. That Iowa, and so. It cuts a lot of different ways, but probably it's a bigger benefit for Democrats.
Pretty interesting.
But Republicans are fine with that. If they lose the Senate, but they lock in the Supreme Court for a couple generations, they'll take that trade.
Yeah, especially given the modern gridlock, like the Supreme Court's where all the action is. We'll see if Democrats ever decide to do the more aggressive maneuvers like court packing and those sorts of things. I have my doubts, especially under a Joe Biden administration. Ryan, always great to have your analysis. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ryan.
Hey, thank you.
Next on Rising, senior editor at the Morning Consult. He discusses why Americans feel less inclined to take a coronavirus vaccine, according to some polling data. That's when Rising returns.